Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So in today's video we'll be talking about the storm potential. There is a snowstorm that could be occurring this weekend. There's a lot of uncertainty, low confidence with the models, and we'll be also going over the general heavy snow potential that is looking more and more likely in a long range. So before we get in, if you guys would like to subscribe to this channel if you like this video, and that would be amazing, and hitting the thumbs up button really helps out a lot, especially if you are a returning viewer. Other than that, let's get started with this video. Let's start this video off by looking at the National Weather Service map. Notice that we don't have anything significant going on right now across the eastern United States. We do have that snowpack across Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama. It really did overperform across some of these locations, and it did a fairly good job with that. Texas, again, saw that pretty heavy snow. The special weather statements, I'm assuming, are because of the snow that kind of unfroze. Now it's refreezing. I don't expect there to be any more snow there. I don't think they do either. Yeah, freezing fog. So that always does happen when warm conditions override a snowpack, and in that case they do have a snowpack. There are some hard freeze warnings across central Louisiana. That snowpack made it very cold, and there will be some locations that will be dipping into the lower 20s, so that will kill off most things that were growing, if they were at all. Northern Alabama, northern Mississippi, these locations still seeing some light bands of snow. We do have a winter weather advisory for the Grand Rapids, Michigan office. This is basically to do with freezing drizzle, and that potential could be also on the other side of the lake. Now, the west, this is where we turn our attention to. Notice almost all of Montana is under high wind warnings, so those are very, very strong winds. Notice towards the coast, in the higher elevated areas, we do have snowfall or winter storm warnings for snow. Notice very, very high amounts for some of these locations. If we were to take a look at, for example, well, let's take a Winthrop. Notice that we see again heavy snow, maybe some rain mixing in as well as the moisture pummels through today. Today, the remaining rest of today, which is pretty much 30 minutes left. Notice 6 to 10 tonight, 1 to 3 tomorrow, and then it kind of clears up with some rain and snow, or I shouldn't say clear up, it makes it more into a mess. Seattle, the Northwest are in for some very, very heavy rain yet again. Notice they've had a very, very wet season already across Washington, to say the least. And you can see that across, say, Olympia. I mean, just rain likely. You know, it's very wet, and that has been a trend. Look at some of these rainfall amounts: 3 to 4, 4 to 6, and where the snow will be falling, that will obviously be very heavy. Now let's take a look at the GFS model and start talking about this new system. So notice that system, its beginning phase, if you will, is making its way onto the shore already as we speak, as I'm recording this video. Notice, however, that as we push this forward, it doesn't make much progression, and that's because it waits up until this low pressure right here moves on. You can see it drags it forward up until then it kind of stalls for almost 24 hours, just doing nothing, pushing just kind of further inland. Again, a lot of snow, a lot of rain. Eventually that snow right there transitions over to rain. Notice the mountains definitely seeing quite a bit of rain. Snow where it's cold enough, and even Oregon getting in on some of that rain. Obviously, southeastern Oregon seeing lesser amounts, as this is from the coast, the origin of this precipitation. But, I mean, notice the eastern or the western half of Oregon is just going to get pummeled by this. Notice a bit of snow into Idaho, Montana, the Grand Tetons, Yellowstone, into northwestern Wyoming. Then we see this system right here. We have a low pressure developing, right? Very, very broad area of warm air getting drawn up by this system right here. And the high pressure is also helping to drive some of that warmer air in. So 40s and 50s, if not warmer, towards the south upcoming this Thursday. So some of the locations that saw snow this past weekend, sorry about that, we'll be seeing very, very warm temperatures. And if you actually to take a look at the 2-meter temperature shaded, right, we would see that there are a lot of warm temperatures for the daytime highs. Again, this is January, the coldest time of the year. This doesn't look too bad, does it? Could be much worse, and it has been much worse. But again, we have cold air to the north lurking behind that system, which will be taking shape. Now, I do want to warn you, this is just one model, the GFS. There are many models that we look at, and this is just one of many. Notice what it does. It starts intensifying this low pressure to a relatively strong rate, 981. Probably across Canada there will be some blizzard warnings of some sort. I don't know what they call them. Probably blizzard watches, blizzard warnings, blizzard advisory. I don't know exactly. But Environmental Canada, I think that's what it's called. That's what they issue. And notice very strong winds. And again, with the help of a high pressure, these winds, these high wind warnings are going to probably be reissued for this event. I think as of now they're issued just for current, but they will be probably reissued again. Notice that what this does, the GFS, develops this weak scattered cold front with a lot of rain and snow mixing in. This is at around 6 a.m. Thursday. And then moves into Wisconsin, maybe northern Illinois, Iowa. Again, this is just one model. Notice it wraps the system up. There is plenty of cool air. It's not the coldest air, but it is definitely going to be a change compared to what we're going to be seeing earlier on Wednesday or Tuesday. Notice this low pressure kind of stalls itself out. Notice what it does. It takes a backspin, develops, kind of drove back. So if you map out the track of this, it's something like that. And once it goes back into the northeast, this is where it could really re-intensify. And there are more and more models that are starting to hint that. So look at the GFS. The latest model of the GFS, notice it drags a lot of precipitation up from the Atlantic into upstate New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, into Canada, Quebec, seeing a lot of snow out of this. Not the coastal areas according to this run of the GFS, but it's definitely a possibility that if this shifts further out to the east, notice a lot of precipitation, a lot of snow. Now the cold air behind this is not too impressive. However, you don't need impressive cold air to see snow. Notice we do see some more precipitation lingering. The GFS doesn't do much with that. And then notice in terms of big storms, there is quite a big potential for precip makers. You can see there's another big beast right there. There's another one, some lake effect off Lake Michigan. All the lakes will be pretty efficient at producing lakes or lake effect. So in terms of snow, let's just take a look at this first system, right, and track it through and see what this one will drop. Total snowfall. Notice not too much across the Midwest according to this GFS model run. It does show more across the Northeast, however. And if I were to, for example, show the model run from 24 hours ago, you can see it's generally kind of the same. Weaker amounts with the GFS, but again, not all models agree. Not all models agree. Take a look at the Canadian, for example. This shows much more snow and further to the south and across you say Illinois, into portions of Missouri, Wisconsin, Minnesota, southern Canada right there, seeing quite a good dose, and into far eastern Canada and southern New England, northern New England into northern Maine, northern Vermont, New Hampshire. If we were to take a look at this, play it out according to the Canadian, right, we would see that for now, again, we have not much going on. The system dissipating. We have a bit of some showers. Again, that light drizzle that's prompting that winter weather advisory across Michigan. Then we have that big system moving on. Again, loads of rain where it rains, loads of snow where it snows. And then this moves on, right, drags off. Not too impressive. It's pretty far to the north, so it's a pretty strong disconnect from the Gulf of Mexico. If this was, a bit further to the south, it may have been more significant. Regardless, the GEM, the Canadian, develops a much stronger, healthier cold front rather than the GFS. And notice what it does. It brings more snow to Missouri, Iowa, Illinois, Wisconsin, and starts slowing this low pressure down. It kind of dissipates the original parent low and develops a new one. And notice, quite a bit of snow occurs across Michigan, the UP, into Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, and into Ohio, maybe even Michigan, Detroit potentially. Again, this is just one of many runs. Pretty chilly air behind us. It does the same thing with the GFS. All models show it that kind of loops around. And with that, it's able to draw moisture from the Pacific, or a little bit from the Pacific, you can see way over there, but mainly from the Gulf and the Atlantic. So the Atlantic Ocean, the Gulf is part of the Atlantic. Just more specialized. Notice, while there will be potentially a system, right, going on over here around next weekend, there will be quite a bit of showers, snow showers, occurring across much of Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Wisconsin. Now, these don't look to be heavy accumulating system or showers, but they could pack a punch. They will have blustery winds, snow probably falling pretty heavily, but for brief periods with these showers. Some lake effect also getting kicked off, but again, it's mainly this system right here that could be our main area of concern. Again, as you saw, the GFS painted really not much. Notice the Canadian does show that storm making its way onto the northeast, dropping some into Pennsylvania, maybe Philadelphia, for example. You can see right there with this arrangement, with this track. Notice this drags, again, a lot of precipitation, but it does not really hit the United States hard. It hits Canada as it moves off into maybe Quebec, those far eastern locations, seeing some snow out of this. And then notice the Canadian does keep things active with snow constantly on the move. And potentially you could see another precip maker right there. So again, there won't be a lack of snow chances. This is the first one we have to watch for, and in terms of snow, just from that system alone, you can see that Canadian paints quite a bit more than the GFS. Notice it's way more for cities like Chicago, Milwaukee, Green Bay, Grand Rapids. Let's say even Detroit, Indianapolis, seeing a bit of snow out of this. Minnesota, not that much up here, but again, there are some models, especially in the ensembles, which I'll show you, that show a large, full-fledged snowstorm across these locations. Notice Southern Canada, though, seeing quite a bit. Really, mainly, I say Southern Canada. Really, again, mainly Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, seeing quite a bit of snow. Really, maybe not the southernmost locations, but central Manitoba and Saskatchewan getting the most. And even if they don't see that much and they see 3 to 4 inches, it will be wind-driven. I mean, the winds will be powerful. It will be relatively chilly, so just not a pleasant event. Notice that for high elevations across Washington and into Idaho, Montana, right, there will be quite a bit of snow. And obviously where it's not snowing, there will be a lot of rain as there's loads of precipitation. Now, notice, again, more snow here, more off the lakes, and you can see there's that track, and if this shifts further to the south, that could produce a lot of snow. Now I want to show you the GFS parallel. Okay, this hasn't loaded in on this website, so I'll show you that next. First, let's just take a glance at the European model. Notice it takes that system that dropped the snow across Texas off the coast, no nor'easter. Notice very moisture laden system. I mean, this thing will be just dropping buckets of rain quite literally and shovelfuls of snow where it will be snowing. Notice the European takes is pretty strong, right? A very wrapped up comma shaped area of snow behind it, a bit of a cold front out ahead of it, not as strong as it's previously been showing it. Notice though what it does, it slows it down and allows it to kind of stall. It doesn't really intensify or weaken. Notice staying at relatively similar millibars. But while this is occurring, even if the snow amounts aren't going to be heavy, which again, some models are showing pretty high amounts. Look at the winds. I mean, this thing is an absolute cyclone. This thing's, look at that, look at those isobars around that thing. I just need to show you that again. Take a look at this. Look at that. All around here that you could be probably expecting some sort of potentially even damaging wind. So that will definitely be miserable, especially when you have snow falling lightly and just icicling your face, if you will. I don't know. That was a word I made up, but just pummeling your face with little tiny snowflakes. That won't really be pleasant. Now, notice it sticks down for quite a few days. It starts early Thursday across Minnesota and then spreads and then stays across Wisconsin, Illinois, Iowa, Missouri. Again, this is just one model run. Notice that is no real area of heavy snow with the European, and it does definitely pull up moisture from the Atlantic Ocean and potentially some heavy snow across Atlantic Canada maybe. This European model favoring more of maybe even far or way more west than, for example, the GFS that I showed you, or the Canadian that barely clip Quebec. This one shows some pretty strong signals. Notice that moves off, and we do see some more clippers, light disturbances, nothing too significant right immediately after, but again, the pattern remains active. So let's just take a look at how much snowfall the European is predicting, right? Just to show you its snowfall amounts. Again, this is assuming a 10-to-1 ratio, which some of these amounts may be falling at a slightly higher amount. Notice, look at that right there. It does not display weak amounts of snow. While it will not be heavy snow, it will be falling very lightly over a very long period of time. You can see 8, 9, 10 inches according to the European model across Minnesota. Minneapolis seeing some snow. This could obviously shift, further south, further north. Maybe even portions of Illinois, Wisconsin, Iowa could get in on more of this. If not, they'll just see a few light accumulations from these showers. The Northeast picking up on some, or I should say southwestern Canada or southeastern Canada, maybe in the Northeast a bit as well. Obviously, where the snow falls in the Northwest, you can see those amounts are going to be heavy. Now, let's take a look at the GFS parallel, a model that I like to look at quite a bit. Let's take a look at the most recent model run. What we see is, again, it makes its way onto the West Coast. Very heavy rain, very heavy snow across Idaho, northern Idaho, most of Idaho, and into Montana. Then we have a little bit of a break, right? It kind of re-intensifies, and it does the similar thing what the European does, and really all the models do. It stalls it out very slowly, just kind of spins it. But the GFS parallel brings more snow in right immediately, right? So these amounts are going to be heavier. Look at that, potentially over a foot. And it's basically keeps it slow, yes, but a bit stronger in the meantime. Notice, and it does also bring more snow for the Northeast into portions of upstate New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, maybe in Massachusetts, Maine. And notice it does keep that shower activity, dropping 1 to 3 inches across these areas. Again, that would be very scattered. Those 3-inch amounts, maybe more like 1 inch. And then in the long range, again, adding those snowfall amounts as the pattern remains active. Let's quickly go back, precipitation type and rate. Track this out using the simulated radar, if you will. Notice there's our system, right? Very, very strong cold front with, relatively a lot of precipitation compared to what the GFS was showing, and the European kind of measly, right? The GFS parallel more strong and more robust. Notice it transfers this energy quicker, so this low pressure is further to the south, delivering stronger winds and heavier snow into Minnesota. The arrowhead into northeastern Wisconsin. Now notice into Michigan this spreads and these snow showers commence, right? Notice it does drag a lot of precipitation off the north or off the ocean, and it does develop that system again closer to the west than most models. A lot of models, if you recall, kind of cut the extent of the snow right here. The GFS parallel is way over here, so that's a pretty big shift, right? Notice that as we push this forward, very strong winds and snow does develop, and of course the pattern remains active according to the parallel model. So I showed you the snowfall amounts from the parallel model, right? And actually, I just want to take a look at the Kuchera because that is assuming supposedly the correct ratio, right? But sometimes they overproduce these amounts. Notice what it shows is quite a bit of snow across Minnesota, even into Minneapolis and northwestern Wisconsin, and into portions of maybe eastern Dakotas. This is just one model run. Again, it's not set in stone. Let's take a look at some of the high res. They are starting to finally get this within their range. Notice the NAM shows a lot of snow across the west, shows that system intensifying, that cold front, and boom, this is what we get. Very, very far to the north compared to some of the other models. It paints it, across central Manitoba and Saskatchewan rather than Minnesota area. Notice it does drop some snow, but it's mainly just in very, very light snow showers. And if we were to simulate the radar for you, we would see that, again, very similar to the northwest, right, getting pummeled. This system developing way over here. There's a nice band of snow, just not too intense. Now, it is possible that, again, this will obviously change and maybe develop a low pressure from this cold front like the other model did, the GFS parallel we were just looking at. And notice, it continues this for quite a while and does show some signs of developing a low pressure right there. So, possibly still a significant event according to the NAM. Now, the RDPS is similar to the Canadian in the sense that it brings it way further to the south, even further south than Minnesota. Notice, let's play this out. We have that, low pressure across the west. It brings us moisture further towards the east, sweeps it out. Notice Nevada, Utah kind of dissipating across these locations. Salt Lake City, not much out of this event, but again, it's something to watch for. Notice what it does. Relatively similar, right? Everything looks the same. Well, we'd start seeing more precipitation across Iowa and Nebraska, where more pronounced than, say, any other model, to be honest. And it starts developing a pretty nasty cold front right here, and that cold front has enough energy to kind of support its own low pressure. And what this does next is unknown. But through this time, notice it doesn't drop much across Minnesota or Wisconsin, but further to the south. And through this time, what we see in terms of total accumulated snowfall for the Kuchera, we see some generous amounts already starting to show. So again, this could be a more southern event. It does show snow across southern Wisconsin, just not the Minnesota area. And I mean, you can see this is the RDPS, and the European showed very heavy snow up to a foot across Minneapolis. So there's a ton of differences. I mean, it could go from 12 inches to 0 according to the RDPS. Now, the previous model of the RDPS barely caught out with the system, but it's been maintaining a similar trend with the band, so we'll have to see. The NAM has been also, I think, relatively consistent from what I've seen, just maybe a bit less than what the Canadian RDPS has been. Let's take a glance at the model viewers, so the ensembles. Notice what I have pulled up across. This is the Great Lakes region, so again, a lot of the Upper Midwest is cut off, but I do apologize. It only allows me to select regions, not necessarily a whole United States. So notice that what we see is nothing really up until that snow system. Obviously, notice that these are a bunch of ensembles, right? So many different models. I think 31, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah, 6, yeah. Around 31 models shown here. And notice that a lot of differencing already from the onset of the system. Some show it very far to the south across Wisconsin or Iowa. or relatively far to the south compared to a model like this, the E6 Ensemble, which doesn't show much for now. But so let's just take it through the whole track of this storm and see what it shows. Notice, this model doesn't do much. This one does show a bit further to the south, or this one doesn't do much. I was speaking for the areas of Illinois, Indiana. It does show a lot further up north. This one's more south-oriented. This one, it's tough to tell, maybe a bit more to the north. It's cut off, though. You can see that, and just look at your location and see that there are some ensembles showing completely different setup, maybe more of a slider from west or from south to north. We'll have to see, but generally the NAMs or the GFS have been trending south, a bit south, and the proof of that is, let's just take a look at the 6Z, so the one in the morning, today in the morning's model run. Let's take it out to 138. There were some models that took it further to the south with this GFS ensembles, right? Notice that what we see is right there, that's a bit further south, but there wasn't a single one that, for example, showed across Illinois or southern Wisconsin. And with the latest model run, we do have that. So, again, whether or not this is a reliable trend or not, we'll have to see. I think the confidence on this is pretty low. And the National Weather Service is underestimating, in my opinion, a lot of these snow chances. And, again, according to the 18 model, or the 18Z, so the most recent one, you can see that it has shifted further towards the south a bit. Now, let's take a look at maybe more of a larger area. I want to look at the upper Midwest, as that's, let's just take a look at the Midwest. This orientates a bit further to the west, and notice through hour 144, it does show quite a bit of snow, right? And you can see this one's different, that one's different. There are some models that show weaker amounts, but there's some models that show very heavy amounts. And again, this separation, if you will, is similar across the European ensembles, the EPS members. Take a look at the United States, and 5-day snowfalls. That will keep it more accurate, 120 hours out. Notice, this is what the ensemble shows. So this is each little model that shows something else. Look at this one compared to this one. Different, right? Way different across some cities. Now, I'll just run through these slowly, and you could pick out your location and watch for the snow changes. Notice what we see is a lot of confidence that the Midwest will be seeing snow, but quite a bit of disagreement. Notice that this one shows it maybe even to central Missouri, this one, and not even into Iowa. And this one shows it way further to the north, this one further to the south. And I mean, I could just keep this trend going. Notice there's a lot that center it across the Minnesota area, so that is definitely something that we'll have to keep on a watch for. Notice into Wisconsin, the UP, and again, more models than not showing heavy accumulations. The European itself shows this. So again, the National Weather Service right now doesn't show much of anything forecasted, but that's because, again, it's a bit further out still. But again, some models make a big storm out of this, while some a bit weaker. And notice that the placement of this snow is still all over the place, and really it has been jumping around quite a bit, to say the least. Notice, especially these latter ensembles right here do quite a bit of jumping around. So I know that there's a European model that comes out every or at 6 p.m., but that's just for up to 90 hours out, so it's could give us some fresh information. I think it just may have finished that in time. Select cycle, the 18 one, you can see. So that's definitely an interesting thing. I didn't really know, honestly, prior to a few months ago, that the European had a evening model run. Again, it's not a full model run, but it goes out to around 90 hours, I'm pretty sure. Well, this one hasn't processed yet. See, it's 6:06, so it takes a bit while, but this is what it shows up until then. So I'll be monitoring that and watching that. But yeah, so for now, thank you guys so much for watching. Again, keep a eye on the sky. Stay tuned, as this will probably be, if it does occur, most likely maybe a blizzard because of the winds and the light powdery snow. So again, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you guys on the next episode. See ya. Bye.